Yo, 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 what's good? It's Bear in the building. Thank you guys for tuning in on another episode of Kueen Talk. Today's special guest is Syrai Socials. Welcome, welcome.
Hi, everybody.
How you doing?
I'm good. As you heard, I am Syrai, aka Lastar Yamea. I am 20 years old. I am black, African American. My pronouns are she, they, and I identify as a trans woman in the LGBT community.
All right. And where are you from? Are you from Wichita or?
So, originally, I am from Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Okay.
I traveled because my family is originally from Little Rock, Arkansas. So we went back and forth up until I was about 4, a little bit. You know what I'm saying? And then we moved to Wichita, Kansas, here, of course, when I was 5.
Okay, so you were pretty much raised in Wichita.
Yes, indeed. I
So
started school here, yes.
where was your middle school and high school at, like in Wichita?
So, middle school, I went to Pleasant Valley Middle School.
Okay.
That's like out west. And I went to North High School.
Okay,
Yeah.
so all right, North. We've had a North high on here as well.
Yes, indeed.
What so what years did you graduate then? What year did you graduate?
So, I did go and attend all 4 years, and I
Okay.
graduated in 2021.
2021.
Yes.
Okay, so like COVID and all that situation
Oh,
was
my.
yeah.
That was something, okay? So,
That
you
was
want
your
to?
last 2 years of school.
Yes, it was. So,
Dang, I'm sorry. I'm sorry you had that experience because I was like thinking about like the students that had to go through that. Like what was that like for you?
so, honestly, it was a lot of mixed feelings. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mhm.
for one, this did happen when it was in my junior year of high school.
Mhm.
Yeah, we were getting ready to, we had just came back from winter break, and then we were getting ready to go on spring break, actually.
Uh-huh.
And our teachers, I guess they had been watching the news, and they were like, hey, you guys might not be coming back to school if this virus spreads and things like that. And we did not believe them because typically, when something like that comes about in the news, it doesn't happen.
Right.
So, we didn't think nothing about it. 2 weeks later, we're at a school and we thought that we had just had an extended break. Little did I know, little did we all know, we
Yeah.
were at a school for the rest of that year.
Yeah. And the following year, right? It's
That
'cause-
that is true. Now, I tell this as well. Me and my aunt,
uh-huh.
that same spring break of 2020, we had planned to go to Thailand.
Oh.
Yep, and we had to stop in China for, a layover, and then we had to go on our final destination. But we could not go, so she ended up traveling somewhere else, and I ended up staying. So that sucked.
Yeah. So like what was that like for your graduating class? Like you guys just did a Zoom graduation or you guys even have a
Oh,
graduation?
we did have a graduation. We were lucky. So the previous year they were testing out different methods on graduating, but with ours we just had a limited, people that we could bring. We could only invite 10 people.
Mm.
That was very hard, let me
Yeah.
say.
D-
So it was interesting, but we did have an in-person graduation.
Okay. Nice. Well, at least you got that portion, but I feel
Right.
like you didn't get that full senior experience.
That is correct. We also did have a prom.
Oh, you did?
We did. We
Oh,
did. They were heavily debating not.
yeah. Well, so you got that. So I have to ask, like, you said you're a transgender woman.
Yes.
Did you identify like this while you were in high school as well, or?
So, when I was in high school, I did not, you know what I'm saying? Actually, I really put that part of me away, if that
Mm.
makes sense, just because A, I wasn't necessarily in the space to, fully embrace it.
Mhm.
And, B, I didn't know fully, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I was out as gay, but I was very, very feminine. I wore makeup every day, everybody, things like that. So
Okay, so you did like tap into that side a little bit. So for
I
your
did.
prom, it was just
Baby, For my prom. Oh. I really wanted to show out because you only get that one time,
Right.
you know what I mean? And I heavily encourage all the kids to go and, go to their prom. But I went in full drag. My
Okay.
I made my look. It was a leotard. It was white mesh with some sequins and some rhinestones. And, I had this blonde hair that I styled up. I did my makeup and pleaser platforms that were that tall. And I went to my prom and I had this long cape. We had a photo shoot before.
Uh-huh.
And we went and I stunted. Let me tell you, I stunted.
Oh, I don't. Yes, the first time. That was like the first time you had done that, or
Well, not exactly.
okay.
So it was really my first time being fully like feminine, 'cause
Uh-huh.
then I had even like, I know this is PG-13, but I had even tucked, you know what I'm
Uh,
saying? That
uh,
was my first time
uh,
really experiencing that.
okay.
So it was, once I had done it, I knew I was like, I like this, you know what I mean? And the
Yeah.
response was just so great. I was shocked. It was some I was completely not used to.
So your family embraced that, like they were
No.
okay.
Not at all. So,
Okay.
well, I'm gonna say it like this. So, in the beginning,
Mhm.
because I come from a very Southern religious family,
Mhm.
they're non-denominational Christian, but I went through different faith journeys throughout my life. You know
Mhm.
what I'm saying? But it was heavily Christian, no matter what. You know what I'm saying? And it was not normal to them, so it was something that they were very, indifferent about, you know what I mean? And growing up, when I did try and like, so not so much as dress feminine, but even like, I would talk to boys sometimes, I almost got sent off several times to like live with other people so I would be tougher. So, not really.
Okay. Okay. Then let's bring this like you brought this up, so let's talk about this for a minute.
Oh yeah, there's
So
some layers. Oh
yeah,
yeah.
let's dig
I
into it.
got you.
Let's
I
let's
got
get
you.
to it. So you said that your family sent you like that. That's what they tried to get tougher. So
Mhm.
what age were you experiencing your family's back not your family's resistance towards you and
Mhm.
who you are as a person?
Well, I'm gonna be honest now. I was always very feminine. You know
Mhm.
what I'm saying? Like I would say up to, my memory would go back to about maybe 5. Maybe when I moved down. And I had started school and I was really able to understand who I was and
Mhm.
fully, see, it's okay. There's a life outside the hood. You know what I'm saying? So it started out with like, the cousins who were like my age a lot of the time, you know what I mean? And then it, went from like them to the adults, who would make comments about things that I would do. And then a lot of the time they would go back and tell my mom and stuff, my business became everybody's low key.
Mhm.
So it it started a while and then it sort of kept happening, and then you know once I once like got older and was able to make my own decisions and was choosing to not be around it, then it sort of changed just a little bit.
When at what age did you distance yourself, and what do you mean by like
Yes.
what did you do?
So my younger sister and we used to go down every summer every year up until I was about, I would say 16.
Mhm.
And that's when I decided not to. I decided to work, and then we had came to visit for a shorter amount of time, and it was better just because had somebody else there. You know what I'm saying? But still, I didn't stay the whole time.
Stay where? Like
Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'm
okay.
sorry. Yes,
Okay, so you would go
Tulsa.
okay, so you would go to Tulsa, Oklahoma and you would
Yep.
visit them, and
Yep.
that's when you had a job. So that's when you didn't go to visit. Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
Okay.
indeed. Yes,
I say.
indeed.
So, all right,
Yes.
I
Yep.
got you now.
Yeah.
All right. So, when you would do that, like, what was your mother's reaction towards that? Like, what what did you do? Like you said, you wore did you wear like more feminine clothes, and that's like your mother was like, you need to be tougher. Like, what age were
Mhm.
you when your mother was like trying to make you tougher?
I was in about, I would say, late elementary, early middle school when it started, really.
And what were you doing to make her think that you weren't tough enough as a boy?
No, I really, I felt like it was because I didn't play sports, you know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
She did try and put me in baseball for a year, but I hated it. Oh, I hated it. But so pretty much she tried to put me in sports. I didn't play sports. I wasn't roguish like the other boys in the neighborhood, you know what I'm
Mm.
saying? And oftentimes what would confuse me is she would praise me for not being like that, but at the same time, she also is the same person who was like, if you brought home a baby at 16, I wouldn't be mad at you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it started in like middle school, and then as I got older and hit puberty, she sort of expected me to evolve with everybody else who was around me.
Mm. Okay. So when you stayed back, you said in 16, and you stayed back. What was that transition for you of you distancing yourself from?
Well, for one, it was very liberating just because, for once I felt like I could, make a decision for myself, you know what I'm saying? And also really be able to focus and know that there's, life and things to do outside of, going there and, enduring, what I, did, you know what I'm saying? Or possibly being uncomfortable.
What types of things did you do when you distanced yourself from? Like, what were you able to do like when you were finally yourself?
Uh-huh. So at that time, I was in those were my Catholic days when I was staying back and I was like doing more within the town, you know what I'm saying? And that's another, you know, binder of things to go through.
Okay.
Yes. So I would, go to like Catholic retreats and things, go to church, things like that. Of course I did have a job. I would, I don't know, I definitely would dress how I wanted as well.
Okay. So it's interesting. So you when you stayed back, you got closer to your faith,
Mhm.
and did you were you also open about like being feminine and things of that nature too?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Now, I had a lot more freedom when I was at home, you know what I'm saying? Though there were still things that, me and my mom did disagree on, you know what I'm saying? But as far as, what I could do, what I could wear, you know what I'm saying? Those rules were a lot looser than what they were in like Tulsa, you know what I'm saying?
Okay. So in
As
Tulsa, what was that family? So in Tulsa, who were you staying with like in Tulsa? Like was your mom here in Wichita and your
Yep.
okay,
So,
your mom
yep.
was in Wichita.
Yep, she would get a little break, and then we would go down to like, typically me and my sister would stay with like a grandparent, my grandma, and aunties.
Okay. Okay.
Cousins, aunties. You know what I'm saying? People like them
Okay. And so when you would stay with your mom, you felt like you got more freedom than when you went to Oklahoma, or you felt like you
to
were
an extent.
okay.
To an extent,
Yeah.
just because people in Oklahoma, they didn't even smoke or anything. You know what I'm saying? They might have a drink here and there, but that's about it. But they were the churchgoers. You know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about? So my mom, she didn't really do all that. You know what I'm saying? She was more loose. She smoked. You know what I'm saying? All that. She drank. She was very open with us. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
that's where that sort of was different. But she was still from there. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
she had that mentality.
Yeah. Okay. I want to talk more about your transition into being like a transgender woman. Like
Okay.
when you were like, okay, this is who I am and this is how I identify. Like, How did you get to that process?
Okay. So, this was actually on like the tail end of me leaving the Catholic Church. So, I was 18, you know what I mean? Once, I had gotten out of the house, I had graduated and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And I had always knew, and it was a thought that I had fought for a long time, and it was very emotional, I'm not going to lie, just because, the negative stigma that had been embedded in my mind, growing up, behind transness, you know what I mean? And it was a lot. So I was 18 and I was really thinking, and I was like, I don't really feel masculine. And nothing that I did, that I didn't look very masculine either. And it was always something in me. And I really had to come to terms with a lot of things, like a lot of childhood trauma, and really, really think and choose my happiness. So that's ultimately where that started. And then it was a delay, to get started, you know what I'm saying? And it was something. All that, it was interesting. If I could like produce a movie about it, that would be something. But yeah.
What what do you mean there was a delay? Like 18 is when you like came out, and did you just say like I'm transgender woman? Like did you, and before that, did you identify as gay, or was there layers to it? Like
Oh yeah, there
did you
was
work
layers.
yourself,
Mhm.
and like so where did it start? Did you like come out as gay, bisexual? Like what's your coming out story?
Yeah. So honestly, my coming out story, it has so many layers
Mhm.
because of, the family that I have, First it was bi, you know what I mean? And that was very, very that was way younger. Like I wanna say I was about maybe 12, you know what I'm saying? And then it was gay, you know what I'm saying? It sort of just like reeled in, you know what I mean? It's different for everybody, but it was sort of to like lead, into something, because if it was more extreme, then the consequence might be more extreme. So I came out as gay when I was in about, I want to say, I was a sophomore. And then I fully accepted my transness, you know what I mean? Like, while I was a sophomore, that was when I started to dress more feminine, you know, and I would actually sneak and wear the makeup to school and take it off when I got on the bus, before I got home. Forgot a few times, but yeah, it was interesting. But um after that, after me leaving the church, then coming out as trans when I was 18, you know what I'm saying? And then finally getting on the hormones, that more so the physical part of my transition was more so the delay.
Okay.
Mhm.
I want to put a pin in that. I want to get back to the hormone situation,
Yes.
but first I want like when you forgot to like wear your take off your makeup. What was that? Because obviously that was probably one of the first times your family had seen you in makeup. Is when you forgot, or
more more makeup than what I would typically wear, yes.
and so what was so how were they receptive towards you when just with the makeup? Like did they accept the
Like
makeup? Were they like okay?
it was very weird. It was kind of like if I wore more masculine makeup, like say I filled in my brows, maybe have on a little bit of eyeliner, little things like that. If it's very subtle and barely noticeable, you know what I'm saying, then it was fine. But the more extreme that it was, like eyeshadows and base, you know what I'm saying, and things like that, then it was more frowned upon.
Mm. And what were those reactions towards you like when they
Ooh.
seen you?
Now, the time I'm talking about in particular when I forgot, I was getting off the bus and my aunt was living with us at the time from Tulsa. Her and I were cool, you know what I'm saying? We're still cool, you know. And I walked back, you know, to greet her. You know, I would usually come home every day, greet her. They were home. And I didn't realize that I still had my makeup on. And she looked at me. And then when the look, I was like, yep,
You
I
forgot.
done effed up AA Ron. And I forgot to take off my eyeshadow. I remember it was gold eyeshadow. I was stunting. But yeah, so she was very not happy. She
Mm.
kind of cussed me out. Oh, it was horrible. And
Dang.
she didn't do what I know she didn't do as much as she wanted just because my aunt was present, you know. But once I did leave the room, you know, I felt pretty bad and I could hear her, you know, discussing with my aunt cuz my aunt also had a son and she was like, well, what would you do if your kid did that? You know what I'm saying? And it was kind of turned into one of those things.
So your mom was in the room and your aunt, is that what you're saying? Or both aunts were in the room?
Oh, my mom and my aunt were in
Okay,
the
so
room.
then they just started discussing it and saying, like, what?
Yeah, but my mom was more so instigating it to
Mm.
sort of get somebody to agree. Like,
Okay.
if my son was wearing makeup, I'd be pissed off too, type, you know what I mean? Something like that.
Got you. Got you. So do you feel like what's it like with your relationship with your mom now? Like, has she fully accepted you, or has she got there yet, or?
Well, we don't talk.
Okay.
We had an interesting exchange of words last time we saw each other, so we do not communicate.
Okay.
But, you know, there were, sorry, it's a heavy topic,
Yeah.
but like there were, you know, times where, you know, we would be around each other because our issues mainly stemmed, you know, toward the end of me living with her. So, you know, there were times where we'd be around each other and I would be cordial, you know, and there even came a time where I came and I wanted to talk things out a little bit, but that was also the time where we last spoke. So it was just kind of like a one person effort, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
So, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry that your experience with your mother. Do you have other family members that you're able like accept you for being who you are?
Well, I have few. I can count on one hand, actually.
Yeah.
Um, but I do try and talk to them as often as I can. However, you know, I also believe if it's actual like love as far as like family and things like that, you know, it's something that they're not used to. You
Hmm.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the more time that I spend around them, and this is even friends who have known me, you know, prior to me transitioning and being so used to me. You know, the more you're around them, you know, the easier it might be for them to, you know, get it through and, you know, be accepting.
Hmm. When you came out as being gay, was your family more accepting of that, or do you feel like it started when you said I'm bisexual, or when you came out that you were gay?
Well, when I came out as gay, I feel like that was better, you know, because I, as far as better, I mean a better reaction.
Hmm.
I'm
Right.
gonna put it like that. Um, and that's only because, you know, me putting myself in their, you know, say mentality for a bit, it's not me necessarily wanting or desiring to be like the opposite sex. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
It's more so me just liking the same sex and still, you know, being or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of them don't acknowledge my transness.
Right. And I feel like that's not just your family, but I feel like as we're seeing with everything in the world that's going on right now, like
Mhm.
it's nobody, not I wouldn't say nobody, but majority of people don't understand what it is for someone to be transgender, and I feel like it's new to a lot, especially in Kansas. Like it's new to people,
Mhm.
but you've heard it before, but I feel like it's like you said, the reaction is better when it's just you're gay, but then you add these extra layers on there, and then it kind of gets lost, and you're it's too much for some people.
Oh yeah.
And I, how do you feel or towards that? Because like there's so many. Like, how do you feel for your safety too at that? Like, just have you had to endure situations because you're a transgender woman?
Oh yeah. There have been some interesting situations, especially being a trans woman in the Midwest,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and there's a lot of Trump people, here. Not only do I endure it sometimes on social media, don't get me wrong, it's sometimes rare on social media just
Mm-hmm.
because of, I'm not going to lie, how I look. But in person, as far as like as far as like dating as well, you know what I'm saying? Like just in like I'm trying to make this as PG-13 as possible.
You're good. We could talk about dating, but yeah, I'm true.
Just like the dating scene.
Uh huh.
Let me say it like that, because that's a whole umbrella of things. Because
Mm-hmm.
that could even be like people that you interact with and meet, just in general.
Mm-hmm.
It could go either way. You could just be friends with them or whatever.
Yeah.
So even that's difficult because I've had situations where I've, dealt with guys and say because I make it very clear before I go in, that I'm trans, you know what I'm saying? And some of them have played like I haven't and
Oh.
have done and said vile things.
Wow.
There was an instance where one person sent me the photo of a mutilated corpse of
Oh my gosh.
one of us and in a tub and like just told me some really messed up things just because I was pretty and he you know didn't come to terms with things with himself, you know what I mean? And it
But you
yeah.
do disclose like I am a transgender
Yeah.
woman, and like
Yeah.
I've seen like stuff on the opposite end of that, of just like people not relaying that message because of their safety, like
No.
at,
Yes.
at the same time. So like some
Yeah.
people do it, say it like I am a transgender woman because of my safety. Some people wait to disclose that because of the safety. So
Yeah, no, don't get me wrong. It's a gamble, you know what I'm saying? Like when you do say it, you know what I mean? You risk, are they going to be open? Are they going to be accepting? Are they going to understand?
hmm
Versus like if you don't, you know what I'm saying? You you know what I'm saying? It is also a risk, and most people only see that one just because, they're not necessarily, putting themselves, in that part, where a lot of the guys they might have something with them, you know what I'm saying, and you
yeah,
don't know, and you gotta bolt. You know what
yeah,
I'm saying?
yeah. That is a it is would be a scary feeling to endure that situation. So you only date men.
Mhm.
Okay. So
Yes.
okay. Um when you like besides those interactions, have you had any good interactions? Like
Oh yeah. I've had some good interactions.
yeah.
I've had somebody propose to me, kind of,
Oh.
and
Do you have like creepers? Like,
A lot of creepers.
yeah,
Um, but I try not to pay a lot of them any attention.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I don't know. And a lot of them are non-POC. I'm not gonna lie,
mm-hmm.
but yeah, it's
Do you have like a community here of people of color that are also transgender that like you hang out with, or is it just pretty lonely
um,
out here for you?
it's pretty lonely out here for me
Yeah.
because there are not a lot of trans sisters, dolls, that are melanated. You know what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
a lot of it, and again, like you mentioned with the perspective thing, yes, all trans women can relate to an extent. However, there's a huge difference between being a black trans woman and being a trans woman who's non-POC, who's, white. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah. And how have you feel like those differences have been for you? Like, how has it been hard for you to navigate in this world being a black trans woman?
Now, for me, for one, people expect us to be secrets,
Mm.
and people think that they can, A, deal with us and not acknowledge it. You know what I mean? They
Mm.
kind of act like we're toys in a
Mm.
way. And a lot of people don't like, especially just this is all from my experience. Like, they don't expect us to have like emotions,
Yeah.
like with the things that happen, like especially going from having one societal perspective to another one. You know what I'm saying? It's it's very, very, very different. It's like, especially being black, you're still hated both ways, but it's like you sold out in a way to them, you know what I mean, once you transition,
Mm.
because it's seen as you don't want to be who you are kind of thing, even though you're fully embracing who you are. You're just looking like it on the outside as well, too.
Yeah. And when you talk about like you're being a black trans woman, how do you feel like the black people, the black culture accepts you? And not only that, but just like the black people that aren't transgender as well. Like I feel like there's a lot of different layers to it as to like
Yes, there are. Now, I'm going to be honest. Our people are very harsh,
yeah.
especially when it comes to transness. You
Mhm.
know, it's like kind of what I mentioned with family. This is where I got the most exposure of it. You know what I mean? Also online, you know, they are very critical of us, and they're more critical of us. You know
Mhm.
what I mean?
Mhm.
And that's us as a whole, as trans people, not specifically trans women.
Right.
And it's it's kind of hard. It's a blessing and a curse, and you're not really of use, or they don't really acknowledge you unless you're making them look good,
Mm.
whether that's style wise or something that's benefiting them. You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
that's one thing that I've noticed, and I've had lots of conversations and arguments and online spats with different women who, have a sort of sense of entitlement, just because they don't understand, the transness, you know.
Yeah. And being uh that it is that way within the community, what do you feel like is a way that can make the culture better when it comes to having each other's back in our different layers that we have when we identify as black?
Honestly, first and foremost, stop using religion to do so, because a lot of it is Christian backed,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of, based off what I experienced, a lot of y'all can relate. A lot of it is Christian backed. And it's like, I don't understand, like, why you would go off of that when that's also a similar system of what kept us enslaved. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of ways that it's misconstrued, and it's just not a valid argument in general. And we all just have to understand, like, we're already not necessarily respected or viewed as people in this society, even to this day. And we should just, with that understanding, not want to inflict it on, everybody else. Because we all have a story, not a lot of us have come from, full homes, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? A lot of us have absent fathers, you know what I'm saying, and things like that, and are not ideally perfect in the end like every other human, So it's like, you should just stop being so critical of one another, because at the end of the day, society is more critical of all of us than anybody else. So just give each other a break.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I myself, I'm still learning about like even different layers, like pansexual, like what a like gender fluidity, non-conformative. Like
Yes.
there's like so many
Mhm.
layers when it comes to the queer community that
Mhm.
I feel like this is what I'm doing this podcast for as well, just like to be informative with information and not just put up this wall just because we don't know what it is. We can learn and grow together.
There you
All
go.
right, so when it's the hormones, like what's that process look like? Are you like going to the doctor? Like can you go to the
Yes.
clinic, or what does that look like?
So typically, once you first start, it probably is a slightly different, when you're transitioning, like, you're a trans man or a trans woman, it might be different. But um, with me, you call up, you say, what you need and things like that. I had a letter from my therapist, letting them know, I am able to think, you know what I mean, and I can, and I'm sure, you know what I'm saying, things like that. And I had an appointment. Now, like I said, there was slightly a delay. That's just, from the people who I was going through. You know what I mean?
Like your therapist or
No, the people who I was going to get the hormones from.
oh, okay.
It was
Okay.
trying one and then that one didn't work and then going to another.
Okay. So that's your job to find that process,
Yes.
or
Or,
to who you're getting hormones from? It's not like actual doctor, or
oh, it is a doctor.
so it's like you called the doctor and the
Yep.
doctor fell through and then
Yep.
okay.
And your therapist or whoever writes your letter and things like that, they will oftentimes refer you to different ones.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And
Get it. So you got the note from your therapist.
yep.
Then you go to the doctor that's referred, or you find
Or
one
yep,
yourself.
yep.
And then what's it like? Okay.
So, in general, they are very, very expensive. That's with estrogen or testosterone or any of the following or any of the medicines that come with that you need to take either or in order for them to fully, do what they do. So, I had insurance, and my insurance fully covered, both because I had to take a testosterone blocker
Mhm.
and, the estrogen. Now, I did switch from a pill form to an injection form. I was on the pill form first at a lower dosage, and that was
Is
just,
that normal? Just to
yep,
like
that's normal to get your body used to it, and I was on that for about 5 months.
okay.
Then I switched over to the injection, but I actually, my insurance did not cover for the pill version.
Mm.
That was a little more, but it was still covered to a certain extent.
Okay.
And once I switched to the injection, it fully. Now the injection is more expensive now. The injection fully was covered by insurance,
Okay.
and that's with the insurance that I had, and it was a. I'm pretty. I had like Medicaid.
Okay.
Yep.
So you went through this process all by yourself? Like you knew, like through you and your therapist, and
Yep. I figured all that out. it was quite strenuous.
Yeah.
Let me just.
And so, like, for someone who has never done this before and is curious about going and
Mhm.
getting things changed and transitioning, what the first step is to do what?
But my biggest thing is you got to believe in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that might sound super duper cliche, but you have to do it before anybody else, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not going to happen if you don't believe in yourself, and it's
Yeah.
going to be a delayed process if you don't believe in yourself, because that motivation is going to lack.
Yeah. How did you know you were for sure that you wanted to make this transition? Because once you make this transition, you're committed. So how did you know
Hmm.
I want to make this commitment and I want to transition?
Once again, like, kind of like I mentioned earlier, during that period of time where I was really taking the time to think about who I was and really, made the decision. And then I thought about, I did my research now. And I also just thought about, what I wanted and what would make me happy,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and ultimately how I would want, how I want to look, and, what would ultimately help me feel seen in the world mostly.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad that you've found that and you were able to figure that out at a young age. Because, like, we see a lot of people waiting until later on, but you're 20 years old. So, like, you were able to figure that out. And what was the first or, like, the earliest memory that you have that you seen another transgender woman that you were like, okay, maybe this is how I identify. Like, was there that aha moment for you?
I wouldn't necessarily say an aha moment, because I sort of, I, the way I came into myself, it was just a feeling, and I just knew. I was like, girl, you're a woman, you know. But I had to make sure it was still on.
Oh, I sure hope so.
Yes, but I had a cousin on my dad's side. Her name is Nadia, I'm pretty sure. Um, I heard about her at a young age through, like, we had a photo album. Everybody has a family photo album. And I saw, and I looked and I asked who she was, because she was very pretty. And I asked, and then I had heard, a little bit, throughout because the family does talk. So I heard a little bit, and then it prompted me to ask later on. I was in late elementary school when I asked about her again, but this time I had asked my mom,
Mm.
and my another auntie was in the room, my mom's older sister, and that I got my ass tore up. I'm sorry. Sorry for my language, but I got my ass tore up for asking. And
Oh,
it was just the worst thing. So, like, after that, I was just like, I don't even want to touch, you know, the thought of trans, the idea with a 90-foot pole, because this is what I associate with it. Every time I ask
yeah.
or something, yeah,
And you
so.
said you were at the end of elementary school, like when you asked that.
Yeah, fourth, fifth grade, somewhere in there.
So that's like the first time you recall, like, okay, hearing transgender woman, and
Yeah,
okay,
yeah. And it always, and anytime I had heard it after that, it always had something negative surrounding it, unfortunately.
yeah. What would you tell someone? Like, you're still young, so like, what would you tell someone's parent that may have a child that's gone through similar situations that and their parents not really accepting?
Well, that's I like that. It's loaded, but I like that. Um, I would, first and foremost, I would say love them regardless, because you might feel like you have a choice, but you don't. It, if you disown them for something like this, though you created them, it's going to eat away at you forever, and you'll never forgive yourself. That's why I said what I said. And more than anything, nobody, you know them more than anybody else would, other than themselves. So i- I'm trying to explain this as best as I can as
You're
well,
good.
Like, it should be one of those unthinkable things. Like, you should automatically want them to succeed. You should automatically want them to be happy, because when you're happy, you kind of live longer, and you fulfill everything that you want to in your life. And good things tend to come back to you, you know? So it's just like, just love them, because 9 times out of 10, they feel like they lack just because, what they're going through is very difficult. And it's very easy to feel unloved while you're going through it.
Yeah, yeah. And I met you through your drag mother. Like that's how we're connected. So
Yes.
you've found family that isn't blood, to get you by. So is that how you're able to just like get through and continue to be yourself? It's just like finding those people that who understand you and accept you for who you are.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
You're good. You're good.
But yeah, that's a very important thing, because when you're able to, pick the people who you want in your life, forever, and you know that they want to see you succeed, you know, there's little to no room for disappointment. So it makes that journey a lot easier, especially when you're transitioning,
Hmm.
you know, and you have some missing pieces or missing like spaces in your life, you know, you can easily fill them, and it's with the people that you know that you need versus people who think that they know what you need.
Yeah. I uh I appreciate that. I appreciate your vulnerability.
Yeah,
Um and like I
that's
said,
Simone's.
it's a hard process out here to be a queer person of color. But as we know, and like there's statistics showing the experiences of black trans women specifically, and just the hate that comes with it, the violence and your safety that is concerning as well. It is very hard for you to navigate in this world, and I just want to acknowledge that, and I want the viewers to acknowledge like and understand the importance that we have in order to keep the safety of our transgender friends, family, acquaintances, strangers, whatever it may be, because it's there. I believe I read there was over 500 laws that have been put in place just this year regarding queer laws to just suppress transgender people even more than what it already has. And so having these conversations with you, I just like really appreciate you coming on here, being vulnerable, telling your story, and I hope people
Of
will hear
course.
this and get a better understanding of you as a person and your family, and they see this and look back, and hopefully they come to you and treat you differently, and maybe you guys can have that conversation of healing. I
Yeah.
It's a long road and you're still on the journey, so
Yes, and I appreciate you for giving me a platform to A, tell my story,
hmm.
and B, to potentially even like, help somebody else who have a similar background as me, or who might be going through something similar in life. It's not a lot of people will listen to, us, and I haven't been in too many situations personally where people will just listen to me. So thank you for, doing this and inviting me on here, and opening it up, and thank y'all for, listening and watching, because it's very informative.
Yeah. It can be hard, like, coming out, and I feel like you've had to come out multiple times. Like, come out as bisexual, you come out as gay, then you come out as a transgender woman. And that, like, there's so many layers in transitioning within yourself and the acceptance that you're trying to find within yourself, and then, like, the outside too. It's a lot to go through and process, especially if you have to go through it alone. Um,
Indeed.
so with that, were you able to have, like, any resources to help you?
My therapist was my best friend.
Yeah.
And I'm not exaggerating. I
Yeah.
told her that every day.
Yeah.
And just my drag family. Like, some of them can relate, some of them can't, just because, perspective.
Right.
But, just having somebody to talk to, about things.
Yeah.
But nobody fully gets it,
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. Is there anything else that you would like to leave the audience with, regarding anything, your story, being a black trans woman? Is there anything that you want to leave with them to think about, to go do their own research, anything?
Yeah. So, more than anything, I encourage y'all to just go out and be seen. Like, you don't have to hide. Like, some of the ugliest people in the world go out in public and they're fine, So just go out and, like, live and be yourself, and don't be scared to tell your story, because nobody can take it away. And we're already, in general, limited. So go and do it, and our time is limited too. So do it before your time runs out. And I also want to say I am going to be talking about all of that experience, all the transness, and even some of the crazy stories in an album that I'm working on right now.
Okay.
Yes.
Nice. You're a singer?
I'm a rapper.
Oh, wait. You're a rapper?
I am a rapper.
Okay. Do you have, like, music out right now people can go listen to? Do you?
No,
No.
I was on a bit of a hiatus to focus on my transition now,
Okay.
but I reinvented myself, and I
Okay.
have been really working to put something together to give the world really a different perspective on transness, and to get rid of that stigma that's connected to it, and put the stories out there that aren't heard,
Yeah, for sure. Is there any other shout outs that you would like to give, like your socials? Is there anything, shows you got coming up that people need to come check you out?
Well, I will shout out my socials. Now, as far as my shows, they vary. But
They're all on your socials, right? You put all your shows on
yep,
your socials?
I promote them heavily on my social medias. That's Facebook at Syrai Loren Ali, and that's SYRAI. Okay. And then Instagram, I am underscore Syrai dot Yamaya, YAMAYA, and that's all lowercase.
Yeah. All those will be in the description below. You can just copy and paste that information into your search bar and
I'll
follow
be
them
waiting.
on everything. Alrighty, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode on Kueen Talk. Please make sure you like, subscribe, go follow them on all their social medias. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please comment below and let everybody else know. But yeah, family, friends, strangers, love, be nice. Ah, all right.
Work.
How was it?
That was cute.
Yeah.
I like that.